Hi everyone, and welcome to the BS 30417 and the Future of Women's PPE in Construction webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. We've had a few technical issues, so apologies for the slight delay. If we can go to the next slide, please, Ange. So just to give everyone a bit of an update, we are celebrating 125 years of BSI. She's looking good for her age, definitely using an awful lot of wrinkle cream, but this is a listen-only webinar. Your microphones and cameras will be disabled for the duration. Please submit any questions by the question button, and they will be addressed after the presentations, which are short. It is going to be a lovely discussion with these two amazing ladies that we've got on board. For any technical issues, if you can report them through the same question button, and there will be a post-event feedback survey, just to let you know. You will get CPD accredited. If you are interested in that, you will need to complete the survey. And we have an awful lot of various events just like this throughout the year. If you want to learn any more, use that QR code. If you can go to the next slide, please. And thank you. We have a little bit of a poll here at the beginning of the webinar. We want to know, how useful do you think the inclusive PPE standard will be for your organization? So we're really interested in seeing what you're interested in. That is how you're going to use it, why you're using it, and what the reasons for that is. And if you could please start indicating what you think on that, that would be really useful for us to be able to look into that and gauge if we need to change it in the future, if we need to update it slightly, if you're already using it. That's a curious one as well. But yes, that's fantastic. Thank you. I don't know how many people we've got live, but yes, if we can just tail that off. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Oh, no, okay, thank you. How did that go? What results did we have on that, Ange? Okay, right. Sorry, if we can have the slides back up, that would be great, please. Thank you. So just to let you know, I am Sarah Gibbs. I'm a Standards Development Manager for BSI. I am a former end user of PPE. I used to work in a coal power station and in the construction environment. I'm now a non-user, but I think I've got enough experience under my belt that I can actually bring that into the relevance of developing the standards that I work on. I work on PPE clothing, glasses, and I'm also responsible for the horizontal topics for PPE, which also include sustainable PPE and inclusive PPE. And I'd like to introduce first Faye Allen.
Hi, so I'm Faye. I've been in the industry for 32 years this year. Chartered quantity surveyor, worked for a number of contractors for sort of over 20 years, then moved into consulting, so worked for Mace at the airports. Like you, Sarah, definitely a user of PPE, not quite so frequently now because I work in disputes in the industry, but it's a bit of a passion of mine because I've had struggles over the years with shoes not fitting me properly and hurting my feet, and getting caught up when you're walking around site on scaffolding because your vest's too big or your sleeves are too long, and just generally tripping up over my own feet as well because they used to be very heavy site boots. So it's nice to see that we've got more choice now. And I think I'd surveyed a number of women when I wrote my book, and PPE is one of the things that comes up as being an issue for women in the industry particularly. But I know it's also an issue for men as well, having spoken to a lot of men. So yeah, it's a bit of a passion of mine as well.
Definitely. Thank you, Faye. And Katie Robinson, if you could introduce yourself too, please.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Katie Robinson. I'm a senior project manager working in the industry, or on the client side, but again, I'm an end user of PPE. I'm on site a few days a week at least. So yeah, definitely something that I'm really passionate about as well. I ran the PPE campaign with the National Association of Women in Construction Yorkshire. And the research in that highlighted, kind of similar to Faye's findings, that a lot of women, more than half, were not being provided with female fit PPE, and that was leading to a lot of issues with ill-fitting PPE. I've had a lot of these experiences previously, predominantly in the earlier years working in the industry. especially with kind of discomfort with safety boots and oversized and undersized high-vis clothing, and how it's uncomfortable and how it impacts your day-to-day job as well. If we could just go on to the next slide. There's some examples of men's versus women's PPE fits. So these high visibility trousers are from the same manufacturer. They are the same size, but the one on the left is the male fit and the one on the right is the female fit. So you can see that, I guess at a quick glance, it looks like I'm just not doing up the buttons, but actually I physically cannot get them done up on those trousers. And really tight around kind of the thighs and the upper leg, compared to the bottom where they are really long and cause a lot of issues with slip, trips and falls. Whereas the women's one is more catered to our waists, our hips, it's kind of sized accordingly. And then you can see the bottom of it doesn't have that slip, strips and falls aspect as well. And then if we could just go on to the next slide again, please. There's a comparison of high visibility jackets. So the one on the left is the men's, generically very oversized. The arms are a lot longer. The kind of the bit on the body itself is a lot larger, whereas the female fit is more fitted. So, I mean, a good example here is the sleeve length. If you are out working on site and you had sleeves that go beyond your hand, you're going to be rolling them up and things like that. And there's all kinds of issues if you're rolling up, especially the retroreflective area of high-vis clothing. And it can, impact your ability to do the job if you're constantly kind of faffing pulling your sleeves up. It's easy just to get something that fits, that allows you to do your job properly. So it was a couple of years ago when I got involved with Sarah and drafting the new British standard for inclusive PPE.
Thank you so much, both. I guess what I'd love to talk about with both of you is your experiences of why you actually got involved and so passionate about inclusive PPE in the first place. I mean, we've talked about it briefly, but was there a trigger moment for you where you thought, this is enough? I can't do this anymore and I don't want anyone else to do it. What was that for you both?
I mean, I think for me personally, I just put up with it for years, because that was the only choice I had. It was either wear a man's size small and trip up over your own feet and get caught on stuff, or you don't have any PPE. So for me, I think I went through most of my career just having to sort of put up and shut up. What happened really is, and I interviewed Katie sort of as part of, and she's referenced in the book for the work that she's done, is I started looking and interviewing women and started to realise that actually we were still having issues that I'd had like over 25, 30 years ago. And I was like, oh God, this has really got to change, which is why it's so important that there's awareness. And I think that's really where this comes in. It's almost like the straw that broke the camel's back when you start speaking to women. So we're on the one hand saying we need to get more women into the industry, we need to be more inclusive, blah, 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 blah. And then on the other hand, no one's actually making sure there's PPE that fits them properly, or for the very few companies that do have it, no one knows about it. Or as a surveyor, I know this myself, sometimes procurement departments don't want to spend the money on it. So it's like, no, it's cheaper to just get the unisex small size for and you're just going to have to put up with it. And I think creating the awareness and actually making sure that people know that not only is there good PPE out there for women that does fit them properly, but also why it's so important that it is personal to the user, which is, I think, got lost somewhere in the ether. That actually is a really important message that we're all starting to share. And I think the standards just really, really helped that. It's been a huge improvement.
Katie, what was it for you?
I think for me, it was in the early years of my apprenticeship. So I joined the industry at 18 years old, and I was working on the rail. So you have high-vis trousers are a necessity on there. And I remember they just ordered me kind of the smallest size that they could of high-vis trousers, and they were fine in the leg length, but could not get them around my hips whatsoever. And I mean, for an 18-year-old, having that, it doesn't do wonders for your self-esteem. And it kind of gave me that feeling of, well, if the if things as simple as the PPE isn't fit for me, then am I fit for this industry? It was that kind of subtle feeling that impacted whether you felt like you belonged in the job. In addition to that, I had so many issues with safety boots and finding them really uncomfortable, even to the point where I bought those kind of foam insoles and I would put them in. And, you know, the usual 4 pairs of socks just to get them to fix. They're so wide, the unisex ones, compared to women's feet. And I used to have so many issues with kind of discomfort, and it used to put me off wanting to go to site. But going to site was such a big part of my job that it was impacting my progression and my learning, because I didn't want to go out to site and I really put it off because I'd be in pain. Whereas it seems so silly that something that is there to protect you, yes, it was protecting me, you know, against everything, the sharps, you know, standing on things like that. But actually, it's causing me issues of pain and discomfort, and, you know, increased risk of slip, trips, and falls from wearing oversized boots and things like that. So it was one of those things where, when I saw that the Chartered Institute of Building started their campaign, that made me reflect on my experiences with ill-fitting PPE, which is something I worked in an organisation where there wasn't really any other women in those departments. So I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. And it wasn't until I saw this campaign online and thought, oh, I'm not the only one. Actually, this is a really normal problem. And even more surprising, I didn't realise that female fit PPE existed until after seeing that campaign and then Googled it and thought, right, so it exists. Why wasn't I being provided with it? Why wasn't it offered in the first place?
Yeah, I can relate to so much of that. I mean, I was given an overall for a 6'4" man, and I'm not exactly short, but I'm not that tall either. And I was, going up 300-foot gantries and everything like that, and trying to go across these things. And I've got big hands as well, so I was lucky with that. So the gloves fit, because that's another issue that women have as well, that majority don't fit average size gloves. But it was the boots. They weighed so much, and when you're going up that many steps, it's like you're training for a marathon or something like that, with the weighted, kind of extra weight on your feet, because you're constantly thinking about that, and then you're not concentrating on where you're going, what you're doing, because you're thinking about, oh, my ankles hurt because that weighs too much, or I've got to push my sleeves up to make sure I'm climbing properly. I mean, do you have any examples where you've been close to having an accident because of PPE, or know of anything that you're happy to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I tripped up a few times, and it was always tripping up scaffold stairs. And I think it was just because the weight of the boots was so much heavier. And I did almost break my arm when I was younger just doing that. And that's the thing, people don't seem to realise that it's the actual health and safety impact of not having health and safety equipment that fits properly. And I used to find it really frustrating when gloves and glasses came in, because I've got quite small hands, so that never found gloves that fit me. And with glasses, you'd lean down to try and write something if you were doing something, and your glasses would fall off because they're too big. So, people seem to sort of, even the hats, the hard hats, they're adjustable, but they still don't fit necessarily properly. And they don't accommodate people who might have Afro-Caribbean hair, for example. And I think, this is the thing we forget. There's so many people. It's not just about necessarily whether you're male or female. It's actually about ensuring that it fits the user properly and that it's appropriate for what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'm highlighting, because I get accused that we're only talking about women here, and we are today, we're talking about women, but the standard is about making sure that it's for everybody. I mean, the example I've got is that my other half used to be in the West Midlands Police, and I'd been working on inclusive PPE standards for nearly 3 years before he realized that I was actually talking about him as well. And he talked about his stab-proof vest being 2-3 inches too short on his torso. And you kind of go, how do you not get that? I'm not talking about making sure that I'm not about making sure that I'm wearing a pink high vis vest here because it's a fashion choice. It's definitely not a fashion choice here. I just want to make sure that everything's fitting everyone safely, and being able that they can concentrate on their roles. because they're not being distracted by something not fitting them properly. And it's something as simplistic as that I think we need to get that kind of message across really as strongly as possible. And I know you've both been doing that excellently, so thank you very, very much. And I know Katie, for you, it ties in with your newest campaign as well for the Release the Bogs. I mean, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of obviously the PPE campaign I did previously and similar with Release the Blogs, it's all about looking at the problems in the industry that I've faced, but that other people are facing. And construction has such an issue with retention that we can get people into the industry, but we really can't retain them. And I think the apprenticeship dropout rate, I always refer back to that it's nearly half of the apprentices we can't keep because they drop out for whatever reason. And actually, we're doing a good job of getting people into the industry, but we're not doing enough to keep them in. And when you see research, the research I did about PPE when I did my dissertation, that found that 90% of women had experiences with ill-fitting PPE, compared to it was about 56% of men. So as you've rightly highlighted, it is really impacting everyone in the industry. And with Release the Box, although the research hasn't been released yet, but it's showing a very similar trend that it's having an impact on men and women, and it's frustrating because the answer's essentially already there. And I kind of think the answer was there before we even did the British standard of that the items were on the market. It was that issue that procurement teams didn't understand the importance of it. They just saw the price tag. It was managers not understanding the importance of it for their own workforce. So this British standard was needed to really prove to people why it was required, because those statistics just weren't enough. And I'm hoping with Release the Box we'll find a solution similar to kind of go to the regulatory bodies to say this might be in the regulations, but that's not the reality out on site. And without solving these really simple problems, we're continuing to lose people in the industry through things that could be fixed, essentially. So it's just one of those things. I have such passion for improving this industry, just one campaign at a time, pretty much.
You'll take over the world before we know it, Katie. Faye, I mean, we've just had a question posted for us, and I want to ask it for both of you. It's from Rebecca. So she's part of the airfield operations team at Heathrow, which is amazing. I really love to do that kind of job. And she resonates with all the points that we've raised with regards to the fitting of shoes, high-vis jackets, trousers. They wear full PPE to be out working on the airfield day and night, and she wants to make changes to make our department more inclusive. What principles from construction's work on female fitting PPE could we apply to improve PPE and uniform fit in the airport environment? Where should she start?
I mean, I've worked at the airport, so I know what it's like having to wear that PPE all day as well. I think one of the most important things that people have to get in place is this isn't just a nice to have. This is actually about health and safety. And I think, we can talk about culture and all sorts of other things, but this isn't a cultural issue. The cultural issue is people have forgotten that actually to be inclusive, you have to make them all safe. And to make them safe, you have to remember that the PPE has to be personal to the user. The biggest thing I think you can do to ensure that happens is use the standard, actually make sure that you're measuring people correctly so that they have got the right kit. Make sure that the procurement teams know that there are other voices and other places that they can go to actually get the kit, because I know when you work for big contractors, and I don't think the airport's any different, they tend to procure from one or two places. They may not have what we need. I've trialed boots. I know, Katie, you have as well. And actually trialing some of these new women's fit boots, I can't tell you how different it feels. And if you're wearing PPE all day, to have that comfort, but know that you're also safe is what's important. So, the airport will be, I'm sure, quite full on trying to make sure that we get better representation for everybody. But part of that is making sure that everybody has the right kit. I think we have to stop going, oh, it's just as simple as getting someone a high vis, a hard hat, shoes and trousers, and going, okay, what size do you need? Do you need specific accommodations? And where do we get the kit? And if it means that you have to go to a different supplier, then that it needs to be something that procurement need to look at, because it's very, very easy, and I've done it myself as a QS in the past, I'm ashamed to say, to just go, no, we'll go to the cheapest supplier, rather than actually looking at what we should be doing, which is actually providing the correct health and safety equipment for everyone. So I think procurement has a huge part to play in this, as well as making sure that we're measuring people so that they get the correct kit.
Anything to add to that, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with your points, Faye. I think one thing that some distributors do really well is a lot of them have PP fit days where your organization can kind of go into one of these PPE distributor hubs, and they can trial different items of PPE from different manufacturers, because each manufacturer has a different fit. So actually, you might fit a certain manufacturer more than another just based on the data that they have. So I think that's one of the things I would always recommend organising, either that with that kind of be per team, or by getting the procurement department to organise that as a larger scale thing. I think for a big organisation such as the airports, I think doing a larger scale one is probably the best way of doing it. The organisation I work for, we had like an internal supplies catalogue. And when I first started this campaign, I just had a look out of curiosity to see what we offered, and we didn't even offer women's PPE under that. But our PP distributor did. So I just needed to speak to our procurement team to say, can we add women's PPE to this catalogue to make it easier for women? Because previously we were having to find the items and then send all the links over and everything, whereas you could have previously just kind of clicked on it and it was done. And that was sorted within 2 weeks. I think it was a really quick turnaround. I do think it takes a bit of action within your own organisation. I know there's kind of a stigma about speaking up about these things, but ultimately, if we want things to change, sometimes you've got to just kind of bite the bullet and have that conversation that you might think will be an awkward one, but actually a lot of people in a lot of procurement teams, it's just because they don't know, they're not out on site, so they don't appreciate the different issues with PPE that people might have. So yeah, I'd recommend PP fit days with your PPE distributor. I mean, like Faye said, your distributor might not offer everything, so it's good to kind of have a look around and see what others do. And yeah, action within your own organisation, speaking to whoever makes the decisions, whether it be the procurement teams or the management teams, and kind of seeing what they can do to help.
Yeah, and I'd also add on, this is where the standard will actually help. It starts the conversation, and we have a companion guide as well to give you examples of how much of a difference it's making. If you have it, well, I don't know whether you will have a union or anything like that, Rebecca, but we have been endorsed by the GMB union as well, to use BS 30417 as a base for using for inclusive PPE. So you could use that, and it's to empower you as well to have that conversation. You're not being a pain in the bum by asking these questions. You are genuinely asking for your own safety, and it's improving the overall workforce and culture by making inclusive PPE for everyone. And I think all three of us can actually advocate saying it does make a difference having that right fit trousers, having those boots, having those gloves. Not, I mean, it's a personal thing for me. I hated automatically being handed the pink high vis
Yeah.
vest and instantly being kind of like going, yeah, you're the only girl on site, so of course you want to have that pink high vis. I hate pink as a
Well, it's
personally.
also not safe, is it? It's like,
No,
you
it's
know,
not.
it's not protective. It doesn't comply with the regulations anyway. So it's like, it always irritates me, because pink actually in most cases isn't a colour that should be used anyway.
Absolutely, it's not part of. So since being in this role, I've learned that pink high vis isn't actually an acceptable color. You can either have orange, blue, or yellow. And it's kind of, I don't understand why you, like I said, get handed instantly that pink high vis, and it used to make my blood boil so much. I don't know whether you two had that kind of experience of just kind of having people presume, and I
Yeah.
think that's my biggest problem is people presuming. And that's where it comes in with asking the questions when you are looking at getting inclusive PPE for your workforce. Ask people their preference if they've got an allergy. So the other thing is like skin allergies to like the different bits and pieces and materials and preferences. It works out far cheaper to get the right item in the first time
Yeah.
rather than 4 or 5 times later when they've decided not to wear that item because one, they don't like it, or it doesn't fit, or it's getting in their way and they can't do their job safely because sleeves or legs are too long and they're tripping over everything and worried about their sleeve going into some machinery or something. I don't know if you've had that kind of experience of people not wearing their PPE because it doesn't fit. Have you seen a lot of that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
definitely.
men on site, I think I've seen that a lot over the years because it's not just women. Like I say, this affects men as well. And
Hmm.
you do find that if it doesn't fit, people won't wear it. I think I like the pink reference that I've always had is shrink it and pink it. And it was mentioned a number of times by women that I surveyed for the book. But what I find really interesting is I spoke to women in Australia as well, and they are a lot more accepting of pink.
Really?
So it is really interesting how you can have cultural differences depending on where you are. But I know a lot of British people in particular do have a really big problem with the shrink it or pink it sort of thing. So yeah, no, I'm all for the colours that we know protect us and in the fit that we know fits us properly.
Absolutely. Um, I'm just I'm just astounded. Sorry, because the shrink it and pink it always triggers me when makes me think about pockets. Why do people think that we as women don't need pockets? It's
So we carry our handbags around site.
oh, don't. Maybe you could have a high vis handbag to go with that. It would be
Don't give me any ideas.
I mean,
that'll be your
that
next
goes
campaign.
into that's like that whole historical context as well, isn't it? You know, women weren't allowed pockets because they weren't supposed to go anywhere, have any money, do anything. And it's all about control from sort of years ago. And it's just, the excitement that women get now when they do have pockets is ridiculous. We shouldn't feel like that. It should just be a normal thing, shouldn't it? But these things do change, and I think that's why this campaign and the new standard is so important, because things don't change unless someone does put their head above the parapet and work with others to make the change happen.
Absolutely. We've had another question um, from Esme. Uh, I'm a mechanical engineer and was working in the US last year constructing an LNG plant. I'm 5 foot tall with size 2.5 feet and had to order around 8 different pairs of safety boots before I found some that fit. At site, I had to really push for the site to order me an extra small size harness, which they didn't keep in stock normally. Same for the gloves, even the smallest size didn't fit properly. I felt like I was causing an issue or being difficult trying to get PPE to keep me safe. This standard will be great for our UK projects to ensure inclusive PPE for all. I mean, I think we can all
Yeah.
um, relate to that so much. And I think, firstly, Esme, well done for sticking up for yourself and sticking to it and getting that through for yourself. You're paving the way for other women and other people. It doesn't necessarily have to be a woman to ask for these things. You're not the only person that I've known about asking for the safety harness. I was talking to someone last week actually that used to be an electrician on the dockyards in Glasgow, and she couldn't get a female fit harness at all.
Mm.
Um, it was a while ago, so I hope the situation's got an awful lot better now. But it's repetition of the same thing, isn't it? All the different industries, but we're still kind of having that same conversation, and I'm really hoping that we get over it now. And start having a look at that. Let me just check to see if there's any other questions. Um, right. Oh, Maxine. Um, okay. Any suggestions for this one? This is from Maxine, who is an EpiPen carrier, and it's difficult to find PPE that has secure internal pockets. Do we have any knowledge of any kind of previous when we know of that?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain mine do. I think a lot of women, when they were developing women's PPE, a lot of women had flagged out, especially if they're working outdoors, that if they're having to carry around period products, then the last thing you want is to be carrying them in an outside pocket where they're going to get damp. So I've found that a lot of it's usually the big jackets, they do have an inside pocket on them. I know Leo Workwear, they're one of the brands that I've worn, and they do. But you should be able to find out that, I imagine, on the website for the product, but if not, I would ask 100%. The products are out there. It's just trying to find the right ones. But if you put that question back to your PPE distributor, then they should be able to help with that, because that's their area of knowledge.
And don't accept the first answer if it doesn't work. Keep pushing, I think, is the other one.
Especially for an EpiPen, because that is a specific size. So it may be that a pocket that's in there at the moment wouldn't accommodate that, but they may well be happy to actually design one and let you trial it, because they are trying to be more inclusive. And I think from memory, my ex had EpiPens and they are quite large. They're not small.
Yeah, maybe we need to go back to that handbag. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. So, I'm joking. No, okay. Another question we've had from Esme. Will this new standard be a requirement for employers to make all PPE inclusive, or just guidance? I better take this one. So it is guidance at the moment. We do have an awful lot of support from an MP, Kirstine Sullivan, who is the MP for Bathgate and Linlithgow, who has been an absolute Trojan for us in trying to push it forward, that the government adopts the standard within their procurement processes, to make it that it was included as a requirement. Technically, within the Health and Safety Act at Work and the PPE regs, it is already supposed to be done. But I think the guidance comes in is that we are providing exactly that guidance on how to provide it. It does empower you as an end user and as procurement teams to be able to buy the inclusive PPE. It's already there. It's just having that argument to say we need it and this is going to help us. So I hope that helps you a little bit there, Esme. Let's have a look. Oh, sorry, Sarah. I've just seen. Is that purple high vis that they use on network? That's interesting. Let me just have a look at this. Sorry, there's a few questions coming. Right, we have a question from Carly. This emphasizes the importance of planning in the pre-construction phase, something I advocate in my role regularly as a health and safety professional who spends 90% of my time on site. Is there anything we as health and safety consultants can do to proactively support this campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. I think referring to the standards a great start, isn't it? Making sure that people are actually accommodating the people that are going to be working on the job. I also think, it does link into all of the requirements we have, particularly if you look at considerate constructors, they talk about being more inclusive. I think we can push this that way as well. I think we just have to really try and utilise the people that we've got that want to support this. So I would definitely say referring to the standard, referring to considerate constructors, which often refers to actually looking after people, making sure they've got the right equipment, everything else. People get really excited about getting their status from considerate constructors scheme, but if they're not getting the right PPE on site, you can use that, and the considerate constructors people that come round and actually do the actual marking will actually ensure that happens. It will be put on the score sheet. The contractor will have to take note of it. So even if you don't necessarily want to bring it up yourself or you feel uncomfortable, there's ways that we can do that. For smaller contractors where they don't necessarily have CCS status, I think you've really got to work really closely with the procurement team and the planning teams when you're doing this up front. And I know for a lot of people, you may be one of the only women in the company and you are going to have to put your head above the parapet and push for it. But there's loads of us out here who are willing to help you. So reach out to us as well, because we're more than happy to be there and help.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a big tribe, I think, that you can reach out to, and they will give you supporting information, and help you provide that kind of workplace argument of without making it a conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Katie's the queen of this, so like I think everyone should connect with Katie, to be fair, because I mean that's the reason that, you know, she's in the book. She's done so much work on this, and I think, you know, it wouldn't have happened without people all pulling together, and I think that's what this is all about really now.
Absolutely. A different Carly has added, where are you seeing the biggest gap between policy and real life experience for women on site? A big one.
I think personally I've found it, and it's weirdly it has a similar trend as it does with site toilets. It's your smaller contractors that tend to maybe not be aware of all these changes in the industry. Your SMEs, your local businesses that are, you know, so focused on cash flow and things like that, because that's such a massive issue in the industry that things like this often go forgotten until somebody mentions it to them. I found it on some of the sites where I'm on, where I'm working with a small contractor, and all I've done is start a conversation and get them talking about it. And just that simple conversation, even without me having to ask them to make a change, they've taken that upon themselves to change their company policy to be more inclusive, to, you know, embrace the British standard, or to do X, Y, and Z actions. And I think a lot of that is because these organisations don't often have women in. We don't take up a massive amount of the industry, but in these organisations that maybe don't have any women in their site teams, they don't have anyone to tell them that they're doing it wrong per se, so they just carry on business as normal. But actually, if you come across it, and I find it as a client project manager, working with these smaller contractors, all I need to do is have that conversation with them. It's not even in a telling them you need to do this, it's just to kind of raise awareness of it, and you'll find that they take it upon themselves and get it sorted.
Yeah, I think a lot of it used to depend on having that lived experience. Whereas, you know, if they hadn't experienced it themselves, it hadn't dawned on them to think about kind of anyone else having difficulties with not having sleeves that fit them and everything like that. It's and it's also the kind of thing that has been bred into us as women growing up and everything like that, that to stay as neutral as possible and not cause upset and not kind of have that kind of cause difficulty. We're working in a male dominated industry, so we don't want to bring any more kind of attention to ourselves in the first place, and it's all that kind of dilemma, and that's where I'm really hoping the standard and the guidance and the companion guide with it is it's just you're not speaking up too much, but you're putting a piece of paper in front of someone saying, look, this is why. Can you please just look at it a little bit and have that consideration? We've got something from Sarah saying, it's not a question, but wanted to say, I'm so grateful for your voices to have started this conversation. Having been in construction over 20 years, remembering the heavy boots, rolled up sleeves, too big gloves, etc. I've changed jobs recently and my eyes opened via LinkedIn and realized how conditioned I have been. Sorry, yeah, that just ties in with what I was just saying, doesn't it? It's yeah. And I think we're just I'm trying really hard to think of my daughter. Because I don't want them to have to, our mothers made it better for us. I think it's our responsibility to make it better for future generations as well. And Katie, I know I know you're still very young, but you're already making it so much better for everyone else. It's amazing. Right, another question. Do we have a list of suppliers that provide PPE we can start using? We would ask the business to add them to our key suppliers list and online purchase order database. Anything?
I mean, the Chartered Institute of Building, as part of their PPE That Fits campaign, they compiled a PPE directory of, I think it's predominantly manufacturers, to be fair, that provide female fit PPE that has been trialed and tested by women in the industry. So I'm sure we can kind of send out the link to that. It might even be on the links on the end of this presentation, to be fair. But I would always recommend going to your existing distributor. If you have a contract with them, going to that existing distributor, because you might find that they already do stock it, which is what I found when I went to my procurement team and said, well, why don't we provide this? So they sent me to the distributor's website and I found all of it on there. And I was like, well, we just need to put that in our catalogue then.
Yeah.
And that sorts it. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, obviously I can't recommend any brands, but they are definitely out there. They're definitely looking. This is definitely a growing part of interest for an awful lot of manufacturers. They're making it. They want to sell it.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be too hard, but definitely the PPE that fits catalog that CIOB have is a really good start. Otherwise, have a look on Boulders Brass on LinkedIn. Catherine Evans and Katie, obviously, and Jane Middleton have been absolute Amazons of women that are out there testing things and having a look at things and you know, showing the good, the bad, the ugly, and they're doing it in real life scenarios. So the one I always remember is Catherine doing cartwheels and squats and everything like that through the gym, and then having a bucket of water chucked over her to show how waterproof it is. And it's those kind of things where, you don't see bits of her that she doesn't want to be showing you because it actually fits her, in the way it should do. So have a look in those two areas. So PPE that fits in the CIOB and Boulders Brass. Let me just have a look what other questions we've got. Yeah, 100% Sarah, we don't want to be difficult, but we aren't being kept safe in inappropriate, ill-fitting PPE. Yeah, unfortunately, but it's going to change. I don't think any one of the women that have been working on this campaign and this standard and the whole drafting panel, to be honest, they're not letting this go quiet at all. So let me just check. And thank you, that was a perfect answer, and they'll check for that today. What I did want to talk about from both of you is how you think this standard is going to change day-to-day life for women in construction going forward. Just going to leave it as big and as open as that.
That's a big one. I mean, I think from my perspective, having PPE that fits means that the industry has suddenly opened its eyes to the fact that it needs to be not only engaging with women, but encouraging them in and making them feel like it is including them. And I know, Sarah, you mentioned male dominated, and that's my pet peeve. I hate referring to that because I don't think any of us came into the industry wanting to be dominated by men. So I prefer predominantly male.
Okay.
And the thing is, when you have PPE that is fit for the user, that is inclusive for all, the industry will become better and more inclusive. We will get more women in, but we will also have men who are happier. That can only help with their mental health because that's a huge problem in the industry as well. And I think, the whole piece comes together really. So for me, the standard, getting it out there, getting it seen, getting it used, it should be, like a toolkit that anyone who's on a site can use. Doesn't matter whether they're an SME, self-employed person, or whether they're working for a tier one. If we can just get it out there far enough, that's how the change happens, and the industry will become more inclusive to the people that are in it. So we will not lose as many people either.
That was good. Thank you. And I will make sure I use predominated male.
Predominantly
Male industry going forward. Sorry, but thank you very much for the Katie.
I think it's brilliant, and I think it's one of those things, and it's chipping away at one of the problems in the industry, and I think it puts an emphasis on the how individual everyone is, by having a stand that says, PPE is meant to be personal. Like, it's in the acronym anyway. It should have been taken that way, but if it takes a standard to kind of get people's attention and get them talking, to get them to realise that actually our workforce we aren't just numbers. We're not just a group. We are a group with individual needs and things like that, whether that be the male, female, or whether that be additional needs, protected characteristics. And I mean, that goes way beyond PPE, doesn't it? But I like to think that this standard really helps kind of pave the way, not just for PPE, but for that equality on site. So, organizations kind of see their staff and their supply chain as people that they need to protect. At the end of the day, we all want to go home after work back to our families. And if ill-fitting PPE is a reason that we're not able to do that, then something really needs to be done about it.
Absolutely. We've got a couple more comments. This will be key area with welfare and retaining women in construction and attracting into the industry. Absolutely. And also PPE in all industries need improvements. Yeah, they
I'd
do.
agree with that. Yeah, I mean, you spoke about stab vests, and I interviewed someone who was in firearms in the police for the book, and she said that the problem she had is it didn't accommodate her chest, so she's quite big busted. And actually, we forget that it is across industry. This, you look at COVID with the masks that doctors and nurses were wearing, it is all industries that require PPE that this affects. It isn't just construction. It's just, I think, we've had a lot of people, thankfully, sort of waving the flag because this is such a big issue, because construction's really pushing to try and get more people in because of the skills shortage, and a big gap in that is women and what we can do. So if we can push it that way, but yeah, definitely never forgetting that it's cross industry.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Talking about that, I had a conversation with the Royal College of Surgeons in Edinburgh recently, and they were talking about their female surgeons wearing X-ray vests that are very similar to stab-proof vests, designed for men. And there is more statistics coming through that they're more likely to develop breast cancer because they are being exposed to that radiation. Because, anatomy of a woman, you're not going to fit that rectangular bit. So yeah, definitely it's affecting everything. And we are looking into that. Stab-proof vest is my next, along with skin sensitivity. That's the next fight. Next question. Union safety reps can use the standards to force rogue employers to comply, but the lack of HSE enforcement is worrying. How can we ensure compliance across the board?
Yeah. I found that with the Release the Bogs campaign, even the fit of PPE is in the PPE regulations if you kind of dig into it. And likewise with the CDM regulations and toilets on site, it's all been in a regulation, but actually what is the reality out there? And we're finding a lot of the case, not so much with PPE anymore, but definitely still an issue with site toilets, is that those regulations are not being met, those minimum standards are not being met, which highlights that it's not been enforced, which I think is a separate issue with the HSE. And I would love for them to put an emphasis on this because the research I found was that the statistics were very similar with men and women. It was about 10 to 11% of men and women had accidents on site relating to ill-fitting PPE. And if you think that's, say, 10% of men, that's 10% of our industry have had an accident that is completely preventable. And one of the purposes of the HSE is to make the industry safer. And if they could do something as simple as making sure that people's PPE fits, then that's a really big step. I know from speaking to the HSE that there's always the argument where PPE can't be tested to see how it should fit. Apart from face fit testing, that's kind of in a realm of its own. You can test to see if it fits, but a lot of the other fits of PPE are subjective. It's an absolute rabbit hole once you get into it. So they can't tell people their PPE isn't fitting, although you can tell from looking at someone wearing PPE. You can see on those photos that I put up that you can tell if something's ill-fitting or not, but actually there's nothing yet to say whether something fits or not. So future work does need to be done, but I do think I 100% agree that it needs to be enforced on site, and there needs to be some sort of awareness campaign from their side as the regulatory body in the industry to actually say, right, well, this is what we need to do if we're doing it properly. But we're yet to get to that point.
That'll be our next mission, I think. We'll get there. Another one here. Such a great discussion. Well done, all of you, for your work on this. There's similar issues in sport. My daughter plays cricket and she has to use youth kit at 14 years old. She already looks a bit different to a 14-year-old boy. That is kit that is designed to stop players from being injured in play. There are some companies who are specializing in female kit, but it's expensive. We shouldn't have to pay more for our safety than men and boys. Coincidentally, Francis, just to let you know, I am actually working on cricket PPE standards at the moment. If you want to get involved with the English Cricket Board, please do. But yes, that, let's just say female fit and youth fit is something that's being advocated quite strongly at the moment in their looking at the new cricket PPE standard. So I hope that'll make it a bit better for your daughter. But don't take what's being offered at the moment. Keep banging on the door for it, because the manufacturers can make it anyway. Let's have a look. Have I done that one? I just wanted to say thank you all for the work you're doing to push for more inclusivity in PPE. It's really making a difference. I've also just received my copy of Facebook and I'm really looking forward to getting started with it.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity, Faye, to plug your
I won't
Audible.
hit the dog ears up one then, so I'll do it. I'm going to do it shamelessly. So that's the book. You can get it on Amazon and it's out on Audible. It came out last week on Audible. So that makes it hopefully inclusive for everyone, because as we're talking about inclusivity, that was important to me for the book as well.
Absolutely, and definitely
Shameless plug.
No, plug away. It's an amazing read. I think everyone should read it, not just those that are working in construction. It is not just PPE, even construction machinery, all the tools, etc., are not designed for the female body and anatomy.
Yep.
That's also
That's
something
so
that's being looked
true.
at in
Yeah, I spoke
standards.
about that in the
Yeah.
book as well. So Micah May and Hattie Hassan, they linked me up with a plumbing supplier and manufacturer, and they actually created a new bit of kit off the back of a woman saying that she could not do something because it was made for a man's hand. And the upshot is it's made it easier for men as well. And this is the whole point. If we make things better,
Yeah.
it will include everyone. So I think that's why it's so important that, you know, we try not to genderize too much, because this has to be personal for the user, and making it better for the user will inevitably make it better for all.
Okay, I really don't want to tie up this conversation because I think it's been amazing, and thank you so much both. I do have a poll, a last minute poll, if Anju, would you mind raising that for us? Thank you. So following this webinar, which of the following best describes your organization's next step? You can select all that applies or none, but if you could answer it, I'd be very grateful, because I've got to show that I'm getting it done. So the poll is just about to start. So if you can let us know if you are intending to download the Inclusive PPE standard, download the companion implementation guide. Both of them are free, by the way, so there's no reason not to. Identify the actions you need to take, audit current practices, or develop or redevelop procurement policies and practices, or all the above. Would be great. Okay, if I just give you a couple more seconds to answer that, that would be fantastic. And obviously, if you need any kind of advice on doing any of those things, there's more than enough people that are involved in the development of the standard that would be happy to help you with that. But I would definitely recommend downloading the companion guide and the guide itself to get started. Okay, we'll close that up. Thank you very much. Thank you. And if we can go back to the slides, please, Andrew. All right, there's a little bit of a delay. Okay, so yes, thank you so much both. I've absolutely loved having that conversation with you. So just to make sure that everyone is aware, Katie has her campaign, but like I said, if you can download the standard, the other webinars we've held, just to make you aware of the 10-minute bill reading that Kirsty Sullivan is going to have for the procurement process into government, like I said, on the 8th of May. Faye's amazing book, and the Audible version of it is there too. And if you want to have a look at the research papers, get interested in Katie's campaigns for the Release the Bogs and the PPE that fits from CIOB. And we're happy to have any conversations with you if you would like to have that. So thank you so much both. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.